Let's go to the phones. Calling from a 661 area code. Who's this? Where are you calling from?
Hey, this is Adam from LA.
Adam from LA. What's on your mind, Adam?
Hey, I had an observation, kind of wanted to get your take on it, maybe see if you agree or if you've got, I don't know, how to kind of deal with it. I was having a conversation with a friend of mine who used to be much further left than me, at least before I started listening to you all. And he goes, I'm just tired of all this trans stuff. And I was like, okay, but, there's kind of one side that's responsible for
totally
the discourse being the way it is. And he's like, yeah, no, I know, but still. And it was like,
we get commenters like that.
That kind of like, the right poisons the well so deeply that even people sympathetic to an issue just kind of seem to get pulled by some, I don't know how to describe it, some sort of gravitational field almost.
This is how it works. This is why, this is why they do this. And I have a friend who said the same thing I was like, why is this so prominent in your head? And she's like, well, things have really changed. Like, there really seems to be a big push over the past year or two. And I'm like, but if you look at every piece of legislation that has been passed, almost every single piece of legislation that's been passed, it is, and I think there's close to 50 or 60 pieces of legislation. They have all been in some way anti-trans. They've been gender-affirming care. They've put restrictions on it in terms of parents and in terms of this. And the only thing that has changed over the past, let's say, 2 years has been an increase in the number of both people under the age of 18, kids under the age of 18 who have had puberty blockers, and the number of patients who have had hormone therapy. Okay, and I'll give you those figures right now. This is from Komodo Health. The number in 2016 and 2017 was 633, ages 6 to 17. They don't break it down before that. I think intuitively, I think it's very safe to assume that you're not giving a 6-year-old a puberty blocker because they're not, puberty is not imminent for them. But let's say it's 10 to 17. But, it includes more than that. 633 in the country in 2017. That number doubled by 2021 to 1,390. We're talking less than 2,000 kids. The numbers in 2017 who initiated hormone treatment in 2017 was 1,900. By 2021, it was a little over 4,000. Now, when you say it has doubled in 5 years, yes. But if there was one person and 5 years later there's two people, that also is a double. But you're talking about several thousand kids. And we're also talking about an era where only, 3 years prior to 2017, marriage equality didn't even exist in this country. And you're only out from 2017 by, 12 years from when the president of the United States wanted to codify in the Constitution that gay people were second-class citizens. You're only at that point, I don't know, 4 or 5 years out from when, maybe less, from when the Obama administration just sent a guidance reminding schools that under, I think it's Title IX, you need to have bathroom facilities for trans students. So you're talking about the inflection point in our society where there is at least a diminishment of hostility. At least there was, I should say, hostility to trans people. But we're talking 300 million people in the country. And the idea that we're talking about 4 or 5,000 children. And there's every reason to believe that, there's a lot of overlap between the puberty blockers and the hormone treatments, right? I mean, and so we're talking about such an infinitesimally small group of people who, without a doubt, have gone through a tremendous amount of just talk therapy and pain and alienation and whatnot to get to that point. Is it possible or even likely that there are a handful, and I mean literally a handful, of kids who got this treatment without the proper amount of attention being paid to them? It's almost impossible for me to imagine that that's not the case. Because I'm also aware how quickly tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands, if not millions of kids are put on SSRIs in this country without, and I would imagine the numbers of kids who have gone on that, too quickly is super high as well. And in some instances, depending on what the SSRI is, we don't have data as to what the implications are going to be 20 years down the road. Prozac, we have a better sense of. Lexapro, we have a pretty good sense of. But when we get to other SSRIs, we don't know. And so, what we're seeing is the efficacy of a concerted effort by the right that involved literally $50 million at least deployed against trans people in this midterm election. God knows how many other millions upon millions of dollars that were deployed prior to this. Never mind, I don't know how much you could add up the free airtime they got from Fox News, from WorldNet Daily News, from One America News, from Crowder and Tim Pool and Jimmy Dore and Glenn Greenwald and God knows how many.
It's whack-a-mole.
It's all over the place.
Come up with this stuff faster than you can kind of combat it.
Without a doubt. But
it's their favorite mode of, or a favorite sort of tone, which is you have Trump derangement syndrome. You're basically turn the channel. There was that poll about that woman who's in the focus group saying months earlier she was like, Democrats, I just want you to focus on Roe versus Wade, and then later she's like, Democrats focus too much on Roe versus Wade, and that's reactionary messaging.
It shows you the efficacy of these media enterprises. And now, fortunately, it did not resonate with the American public enough that it implicated the election. It certainly resonated enough with the American public that they are more hostile towards trans people. At the very least, your friend is a good example of this. They're like, I'm so sick of hearing about this. Why is this being pushed on me? And in fact, what's being pushed on this person, and they're not aware of it, because, not everybody spends their time, analyzing the news like we do here professionally as a job. They're not aware that what they're really hearing is just the reaction. It's just all reaction shots. And it's literally like if you're looking at a movie and you don't see the punch, all you see is the guy getting knocked over every time. And you watch enough footage of somebody getting knocked over, you presume there must be something there.
Can you get out of the way of that punch, please?
That's knocking them over. And in fact, there is nothing there that's knocking them over. They're just falling down over again. It's like in the NBA when somebody's trying to manufacture a foul. And if the guy keeps falling down every time, we're not looking, then you start to think well, maybe somebody is pushing him over. And that's basically what's happening.
Yeah, sure. And I'll let you go.
All right.
Appreciate you guys.
Appreciate the call.